Hello everyone and welcome to my channel called Demon Storytime. Thank you so much guys for coming to my channel, for your likes, for your comments, for your generous donations, for sharing my videos. I highly appreciate any kind of support. Today we keep reading Grimm's fairy tales and our story is called Iron John. Once there was a king who had a great forest near his place. No one dared go near it, for whoever did so never came back. Ooh, creepy. One day, a huntsman from a faraway land arrived. I will go into the dangerous forest, he told the king, and into the trees he went with his dog. Looking for trouble? The dog chased a deer towards a deep pool. When the deer reached the water's edge, a strong arm rose out of the water, seized the animal, and pulled it under. The huntsman ran to the pool and looked in. On the bottom lay a wild man whose body was brown like rusty iron and with hair that hung down to his knees. The huntsman ran back to the place and fetched guards to help. They jumped into the pool and grabbed the man, then bound him with ropes and led him away to the castle. The king had the wild man locked into an iron cage in his courtyard. He forbade anyone to let him out on pain of death and gave the queen the key for safekeeping. From then on, everyone called the wild man Iron John, and no one was frightened to go into the forest anymore. Now the king had a son who was 12 years old. He was playing with a golden ball in the courtyard. One day, when the ball slipped out of his hands and rolled into the cage, "I'll only give it back if you unlock the cage and let me out," said the prisoner. How cute. Here is the prisoner and the boy and the ball. The little prince really wanted his ball, so he raced to his mother's room and fetched the key. As soon as he had turned it in the lock, the wild man sprang out, gave him the ball, and ran off. "Stop!" cried the little prince, who realized he was in big trouble. The wild man leaped back, scooped the boy onto his shoulders, and ran off again into the forest. When they were deep among the trees, Iron John stopped and lifted the boy down. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Do as I say, and I will look after you." He took the little prince to a well and said, "Sit here and make sure that nothing falls into it. I'll come every evening to check." So the boy sat by the well and watched day after day. Years went by and he made sure that nothing fell in. Are you serious? That patient. One morning, as he was sitting there, he glimpsed his reflection in the water. How long his hair had grown! He bent to get a closer look, and suddenly His long hair tumbled over his head and dipped into the water. The boy straightened up fast, but his hair had turned to gold. It was shining like the sun. When Iron John came that night, he was very disappointed. You have done wrong, and so you must leave me, he said sadly. But if you ever need help, come back and call for me 3 times. I ordered it on a Friday and it arrived on Tuesday morning. Beautifully packaged. The young man hung his head and went away with a heavy heart. Once he had left the forest behind him, he covered his gleaming golden hair with a cup, so no one would notice him. Then he traveled until he reached a great city. There he found work in the palace gardens. Not long afterwards, war broke out, and the king called for all his warriors to go and fight. I will go, said the young palace gardener. Just give me a horse. But the knight and soldiers just laughed at him. After the troops had ridden off to war, the young man hurried back to the forest and called Iron John 3 times. The wild man came striding through the trees and said, "What do you want?" "A strong war horse, please," asked the young man. To his amazement, Iron John brought him golden armor and huge horse whose mane flashed with fire and who snorted smoke. Wow! Following behind was a great troop of soldiers, their swords gleaming in the sun. The young man galloped away like lightning to the battlefield, where he found that many of the king's men had already fallen. He and his troop burst like a whirlwind over the enemy and won the fight. But before the king could thank him and find out who he was, he galloped away. He returned the armor and the amazing horse and soldiers to Iron John and hurried back to his gardener's hut in the palace grounds. Then the king announced a competition with a special prize. Whoever could catch a golden apple thrown by his daughter would win her hand in marriage. Of course, the king hoped that the mystery warrior would come so he could find out who he was. Then the young palace gardener went to see Iron John in the forest once more. "I would like to catch the princess's golden apple, please," he said. "It's as good as done," said Iron John, and he presented the young man with the golden armor and the huge horse one more time. Next day, all the knights in the kingdom waited on their horses in jostling rows. The princess threw her golden apple high into the air. As it span down, the golden warrior galloped past them all on the fiery horse, caught the precious apple, and dashed into the distance. His horse leaped so fast that his helmet fell off and everyone saw his long gleaming hair. How frustrated the king was not to know who he was. A few weeks went by. Then one day the princess was looking out of her window and spotted the young palace gardener working on his own. It was a sunny day and he was obviously very hot. He looked around him to see if anyone was watching. There was no one in sight, so he took off his cap to cool down. The princess saw his long golden hair tumble to the ground. She summoned him to her at once. You are the mysterious knight who caught my apple and who won my father's battle, she said. It's her bro. Oh, maybe they was thinking that he died or something. That's why they didn't look after him for him. Okay. You can't be just a gardener. Who are you really? Then the young man explained that he was a prince, upon which the princess kissed him. I knew it, she cried, and led him to her father. A magnificent wedding was soon held. So he wasn't the brother? For the couple, and to the prince's delight, his long-lost father and mother came as guests. So it's another kingdom he went in. I see. They were just as delighted to see him as he was to see them. Halfway through the feast, to everyone's astonishment, the music suddenly stopped. The doors opened and a mighty king stalked in, followed by thousands of soldiers. I am Iron John, he announced. I was enchanted to look like a wild man, but now the spell has been broken. All my riches, including my golden well, I give to you. And so everyone was happy for the rest of their days. Wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much, guys, and see you next time. Bye.